Yeah, we back. Now today's video is gonna be a follow-up video to one I dropped like 2 weeks ago entitled American Diplomat Says Africa is Essential for Our Future. Go check that video out after this one. But to summarize, in that video, I was giving a reaction to a statement made by Celeste Wallander, who is a high-ranking member of the United States Department of Defense, where she said in no uncertain terms that the African partnerships that the United States has is essential for maintaining their technological, geopolitical, and economic edge, and is also essential, and I quote, to power their future. So she said it in no uncertain terms. She made it plain and simple. She said, listen, we need Africa. We cannot afford to not have an influence and a stake on the African continent. Now today, we have a former French army leader, the chief minister of the armies, or whatever his term was, whatever his title was, a gentleman by the name of François Lecointre. And I guess he was doing an interview in the media, and he's saying similar things as Celeste Wallander. And it's so funny because now you understand why I have the political orientation that I have. I don't have a narrow-minded, ethnocentric orientation. I have a global, international, I guess you could say Pan-Africanist, but, to me, it's just common sense. If our enemies are united across their cultural boundaries, then the black man must also be united across his cultural boundaries. It's simple as that, man. It's as simple as that. So, and I want to give a shout out to one of my subscribers that came into the comment section and brought this to my attention. He said this, take a look up on the screen. I wanted to show you this interview from the French media showing a French general. Listen to what he is saying carefully. It just confirms what you are trying to tell our black brothers and sisters. It ain't no laughing matter. The interview is in French, so use YouTube captions for English subtitles. It would be great to see you use this video for one of your future videos, as this message needs to be spread to a wider audience. So I took the video and I translated it to English, and I put the audio in English so we could kind of better understand. And I'm gonna play the video and react to it also. So not wasting no time, let's jump straight into it.
What is our destiny? As for us Europeans, is the Mediterranean and Africa, where our destiny is at stake. And so we have constantly tried, we French, to draw Europeans into this awareness of the need to act collectively in Africa and the Mediterranean.
One thing that stuck out to me the most in this section is that the European man, he doesn't speak in terms of, us as the French people, the French nation. He says us as European, our destiny, us as Europeans, our destiny. Our destiny is at stake. So that's why, when you look at any black man who does not have an international, global, Pan-Africanist mindset, where he looks at himself not only as his individual nation, but also as a collective of nations under a collective body that share a cultural heritage and connection, us as African descended people, us as African descended men. Our destiny is collectively linked, the same way the European destiny is collectively linked. That's what stuck out to me the most. And in this video, he reiterates that point over and over again. Us as Europeans, our destiny, our interests, our militaries, our armies, our interests. He keeps saying that. He speaks in the collective of the European race. He doesn't speak for the French people. He's speaking for the European race, and it's really, I already knew this, but a lot of folks don't understand this. The greatest example of this is NATO, where the mission statement of NATO is, if you touch one of us, you touch all of us. And that is the mentality that black men must have for our advancement, our enrichment, and our defense. Now let's continue.
And I am absolutely sorry to see the failure of our commitments in the Sahel. Surely we'll need to revisit the question nonetheless, because we cannot imagine having at our doorstep an entire continent which is sinking into the destruction of government apparatuses and states, sinking into a form of chaos, civil war in many countries, and more countries are facing difficulties linked to climate change, which are even more dramatic for vulnerable populations such as African populations.
Now, in this section of the video, he tries to, this is a throwback, like I said, we're here to support a stability and democracy and save the Africans and climate change and civil war and security. And we want to help the Africans fight terrorism. Now, he just said our interest as Europeans, our interest collectively, our destiny is linked. Then he goes into this spiel about how we need to save the vulnerable Africans from climate change. And, because after this, he's going to go into the reason why we need to send our armies back into Africa. But he has to, he's buttering it up, the climate change and the unstable governance. And we need to help the Africans. Listen, they still running with the old playbook from the fucking 1980s. Let's continue.
In addition, a continent which will experience a demographic explosion like no continent has ever experienced. And so imagine that it happens there in the next 10, 20 years, and that it will have no consequences on Europe.
Now, in this section of the video, he begins talking about the birth rates in Africa, how there's going to be a demographic boom, an explosion in Africa, where we spoke on this before, where about 1/4 of the global population is going to be black men and black women. Our birth rates continue to climb and continue to skyrocket, and birth rates in Western nations continue to fall down. They continue to self-destruct. So he's talking about the demographic shifts that are going to take place in the future. Now, I don't even know why that's any of his business. He should be focused on his flopping birth rate. He shouldn't be worried about the black man, about to be populating the earth. But that's none of your business, bro. How does that affect you? That's none of your fucking business. I don't understand. The black man isn't sitting around worried about your fucked up birth rate. So why are you worried about our birth rates and our demographic shifts? But like he said, and like Celeste Wallander said, they need Africa to power their future. Their interests are collectively linked. So as Africa begins to skyrocket in terms of population, that's going to have negative consequences for Western nations who seek to maintain their influence over the region. Because as Western nations begin to fall down in birth rate, their birth rate begins to flop and decrease. What happens is you get an aging population, right? An aging population. You get a bunch of old men and old women. And the African population is a bunch of young men and young women. You have nations like Senegal where the majority of the population is under the age of 35. So you got a bunch of young, energized, ready to work, ready to build, ready to go to war, a population ready for whatever, a lot of human capital. And in the Western nations, there's going to be labor shortages. It's not enough fighting age men to defend the nation. Innovation is going to collapse. The economy is going to struggle to grow because everybody's old and washed up and not reproducing. Whereas in Africa, it's going to be a large working age population, military age population, economic growth, increased consumption, market opportunities, investment opportunities. If we make the right moves over the next few decades, we're going to be the one holding the cards. We're going to be the one having our way. Why do you think immigration is such a hot topic in Western nations? Because they have an aging population. So they need to open doors to immigration because they're not reproducing. They're not reproducing, man. The white man is not reproducing. The white woman don't want to have his kids. You know what I'm saying? The white woman's like, fuck you, nigga. I'm not trying to have your babies. So he needs to open the door to other nations, other migrants to boom his economy. But the downside of that is you have a large amount of Western citizens who don't want immigration to be a policy that is on the books because they feel that is a threat to their interest as a citizen. But the people that control the nation, they realize, listen, our birth rates are in the toilet, man. We got to open doors to migrants because we're going to be done out here. We're not reproducing. Our women are not reproducing. They're aborting their babies. You know what I'm saying? Listen, it's over. It's over for them folks, man. It's over. It's over. You heard what he said. He says there's going to be a demographic shift on the continent that we have never seen before in human history, which means that the black man is going to have all the human capital. The black man is going to have all the market opportunities. The black man is going to have all the possibilities for economic growth. The black man is going to have the largest armies. The black man is going to have the most of everything if he makes the right moves over the next few decades. And what they're seeing collectively is we need to put mechanisms in place to counteract that right now. So let's continue.
And so I think that this common interest should one day make Europe decide to act as a political entity, and that it will defend its interests itself, including by means of the commitment of its armies.
Now, you remember what I said earlier, that little part of the interview where he was like, we need to help the Africans. Climate change is coming. Civil war, democratic governance. Then he goes to the demographic shifts of Africa. Then he goes back to we need to protect our interests, even if that means committing our armies. So what the fuck? I thought you was trying to help me, bro. I thought you was trying to help me. Then you went into a spiel about how I'm having too many babies and you need to mobilize the troops. Well, I thought you was my homie. I thought you was my friend. Bro, fuck you. Fuck you, bro. Fuck you. See, I never thought you was my friend. See, some of these other folks think you their friend. I don't fuck with you, bro. Fuck you. Just fuck you and your people, nigga. Let's continue.
The withdrawal from the Sahel was difficult to accept for all those involved.
I'm the first to have a hard time swallowing this. It is a French, European and African failure, which stems mainly from the fact that we did not understand that the action had to be a global action. The restoration of the state, the return of administrations, the return of development, and if we cannot do all of this simultaneously and in a coordinated manner, we are heading for failure. I am convinced that in a few years, I don't know if it's 10 years or less or more, we will have the obligation to return to help these African countries.
All right, we back. Now, the interviewer in that section of the interview asked him his opinion on the French being kicked out, being expelled, being told to get the fuck out of West Africa, particularly in nations such as Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And he basically says, he goes back into his regular spiel. We need to, restore democratic administration. We need to, we need to help the Africans. And he says in about 10 years or so, we have the obligation to come back. Listen, he said he took it upon himself. He didn't ask the Africans. Listen, the Africans told us in 10 years come back. No, he says we as Europeans, we have the obligation to come back in about 10 years or so. I don't know what that means. That's a very vague statement. We have an obligation to help these African countries. Bro, you're not obligated. Bro, nobody says you're obligated to help me, bro. Who said that? You took on that opportunity yourself. You took on that job title for yourself. You are not obligated to help the black man, bro. You're not. The only people you're obligated to help is your own people, the citizens of your own nation. You're not obligated to help the black man thousands of miles away. What the fuck kind of shit is that? But what he's really trying to say is we have an obligation to uphold and protect our interests, because like Celeste Wallander said in that meeting, I believe she was talking to the Senate or whatever the fuck she was talking to. The same way Celeste Wallander said, and that was the lady who was the high-ranking member of the United States Department of Defense, African partnerships, our relationship with Africa, she said this, is essential to maintain our technological, political, and economic edge and power our future. So what he's trying to say is we are obligated to maintain our interests, because for the same way for the United States and the same way for France and the same way for all these colonial Western nations, their African partnerships is essential to maintain their technological, political, and economic edge and power their future. So even though they were kicked out of West Africa, they said, listen, get the fuck out, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out and don't come back. And if you come back, nigga, we gonna smack the fuck out you. He said, listen, in 10 years, we have an obligation to come back. Nigga, who asked you to come back? But listen, man, I already told you, man, life is about power, not morality. So don't ever let them rock you to sleep when they say nonsense like we need to save the Africans from climate change. We need to save the Africans and establish democratic governance. Don't get rocked to sleep when they say that bullshit. They don't give a fuck about that shit, nigga. They'll kill your mama and your sister in order to maintain their interests. But what they're really trying to say is when they say they need to save the Africans from climate change, they need to save the Africans from civil war, what they're really trying to say is they need to save themselves by protecting the future of their children. That's what they mean when they say we need to mobilize our troops in, the next 10, 20 years, whatever. What they're saying is we need to safeguard the interests and the future of our future generations. That's what they're saying. They don't give a fuck about our future generations because they pillaged our past generations. They looted and assassinated our foremothers and our forefathers. So they never gave a fuck about us. None of these folks, man. None of these folks. So listen, what stuck out to me the most is the language he used. He didn't say me as the Frenchman, me as the French people. No, he says us as Europeans. Collectively, we need to work together to maintain our interests, mobilize our armies. That's big language right there. That's big language. And if you're a black man and you're not using similar language, you a stupid ass motherfucker. I'm gonna just say it plain and simple. If you are a black man and that is not also your political orientation, you are a stupid motherfucker and you are gonna fade into the pages of history and you're gonna be forgotten about. It's either gonna be us or them. Like I said, we cannot coexist. Two powers cannot coexist in the same space. All right. If the European man is going to be on top, the African man must be on the bottom. If the African man going to be on top, the European man must be on the bottom. That is how it is. That's the reality of the matter. Anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari. That's Salim back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace. Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in that ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit. They stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching me blocking my vision. Pay for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This is an art, and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you ain't caught. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so at least. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands, cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and get smacked in their faces.